Hi, everyone. Thanks. So my Swedish is not very good. I can hardly say hey. So we'll just do this one in English. Bear with me. I apologize about that. So my name's Claire. I work at Music Ally. I'm the head of training there. I do these type of talks all over festivals, internally with some major labels, some indies, with managers and with promoters across the board. So I've been quite lucky to work with a whole bunch of people, and I know there's different interests in the room. Before we start, actually, let's see. Record labels, hands up. Okay, management, hands up. Cool. Artists? Okay, promoters, booking agents, festivals, okay, anyone else that I missed out on? PR maybe? No? Okay, couple. So there's a lot of you, and there's just one of me, and there's a lot of interest, so I'm going to try cover as much as I can. The majority of the training will be from an artist or a label perspective, or indeed a manager's perspective as well. But if you have some questions that are more specific and you tell me, how do I do this for a festival, whatever it might be, just give me a shout and I'll try and play around with it. So I do these trainings, but I'm also an artist manager. I've been managing a whole bunch of different bands. Currently, I'm managing Crocodiles. So everything that I say will hopefully be hands-on. I don't really want to tell you how to do stuff theoretically, but I want to try and give you as much practical knowledge as possible so that you can walk away and say, okay, I actually know which button to press on and I know where to upload the thing. Of course, if I went into a lot of detail, we'll be here for hours, so I'm going to try balance those two up. If you want some more information about exactly how you do it, then just put your hand up and ask the question, because I'm sure loads of other people in the room also want to know where exactly that button is, so I'm fine to get technical. I'll try balance both. How many of you have heard of Music Ally quickly? Anyone heard of Music Ally? Great. Okay, maybe some of you were at BLARM. I normally do all the training at BLARM, so you may have seen me do this before. Hello. So Music Ally, we do 4 things. We do information and editorial. So we do like a daily bulletin that goes into your inbox every day that tells you what's going on in the music space. If you're interested in that, you can sign up to a trial for free on the website, so please try that out. We also do strategy and research, or we've helped a whole bunch of music companies and tech companies get into the space and survive in the ever-evolving space that is music. We also do training, which is what I'm doing now, and then we throw on some events every now and again. So that's enough about me and my company. Let's get into today's training. So we are going to first I've split it into 2 parts today. First, we're going to look at social media and online marketing that is free, so without paying, without putting the best you can do with organic reach. How do you make the most of social media without putting any money in it? And then the second half, we're going to talk about what do you do when you have a budget. Now, don't worry for those DIY artists. I'm talking about a small, tiny budget, so like £50 a week, or what's that, 500 Swedish kronor is more or less. Is that right? Yeah. So not a lot of money that you need to put into it. So we're going to really split that into 2. I wish I could do every social media COD platform at the moment. Unfortunately, I have an hour, so I'm going to stick to Facebook and Twitter. Obviously, there's Instagram. Obviously, there's Snapchat. Obviously, there's a lot more out there. There's Vine. But those are the ones that have the most technical bits that you may not know about. And then if you have some questions about the others, we'll try cover them as well. So let's get started with Facebook and Twitter. Quickly, so you have a look at how big these platforms are. As you can see, Facebook is just huge. It's dominating, absolutely humongous, 1.4 billion people. You're like, yikes, that's everyone almost I know. So it's really a lot of people. And then Twitter is quite a bit smaller with about 300 million. It actually just got that 300 a few weeks ago, which is fascinating because it's been trying to grow for so long, and we thought they'd never see the 300 number. So they grew really quickly, but they're stagnating now. As you can see, Instagram's already as big as as Twitter. It actually was bigger than them for the last 3 months. So Instagram's a really interesting platform to watch out for, but there's not much technical thing to know to really teach you about Instagram. It's more just enticing your audience by constantly like reminding them that you exist and that you take pretty cool backstage photos, but there's not so much technicality, so that's why I'm covering Twitter, because there's more technicality to the platform. So the one thing that is obviously certain for both of this and for in general marketing is that mobile is the most important shift, right? So we all kind of were like, wow, online and internet, and like, come on guys, you know, we've moved on now, as you know, in Sweden, and we're like, that's not such a big deal. It's all about mobile and how friendly things are on mobile. Now, although that's something that I say and people are like, yeah, duh, like I totally know mobile is important, why is she telling me this? That you don't actually test that out all day in, day out. I find a lot of people know theoretically mobile is important, but I have tried so many artists' websites that don't work on my phone, you'd be surprised. Now, work doesn't mean that I can type in your address and something pops up. Work means that I don't have to go, ooh, close the thing, zoom in, oh wait, what's how broken link? That's not working, right? It means it's a really bad experience. It has to be mobile enabled, mobile friendly. It has to be really, I need to be able to click on any link you give me, and it needs to be a good experience on my phone. Now, not just your phone, not just your new brand shiny iPhone 6, but also my crappy Android and your friend's worst version of the iPhone 4, right? So you can't just test it on one phone on super fast Wi-Fi and think, yeah, this thing's fine, right? You really need to think about the fact that half the population doesn't have an iPhone, right? 80% of the population has an Android phone. Did you know that? 80%. Android. Now, of course, the countries with the most money you're probably buying your music have probably it's 40, 60 iPhone, but it's still important that you're trying both of them out and you don't just think of one single, your brand new shiny iPhone 6. The important thing about this as well is that Facebook is getting up to 20, 25, 30% of their users only being mobile, so they don't even touch a desktop. So you really want to be checking, as I said, all of the things happening, your website and your social media, and all your links on a mobile phone. Okay, let's get into Facebook. So, how do we feel about Facebook? Like meh.
Also because they have been increasingly shutting down organic reach. You have to pay a lot.
Very good.
Organizations, news labels, you have to pay to reach out to your fans.
Absolutely, I was hoping someone would say that. So there are a lot of complaints at the moment. I'll get your opinion in a second. There's a lot of, in case you didn't hear it, there's a lot of discussion about the problem where we put a lot of time and effort getting good following on Facebook, and now we have to pay to reach these people. So it's really annoying because you pay to get likes, so you make effort to get likes, but then the more likes you have, the more you have to pay to reach them. Very frustrating. I appreciate. I'll talk about how we get over that. Next opinion.
That you said before, can I work from, I work from my desktop.
Yes.
I put information on Facebook.
Yeah.
It's for music and stuff.
Sure.
Is it correct that I can use from the desktop?
You create on a desktop, yes, absolutely. You find
Visitors maybe use.
Yes, so that's absolutely correct. I would say that that's more or less how Facebook is split. People tend to create on desktop but consume on mobile. Yeah, so that's correct. But we're really worried about consumption, not creation. So obviously it's fine if you create everything on your desktop, but because most people create on desktop, they don't go and check it on their mobile, which is the problem. So you actually need to be creating on desktop because it's probably easier for Facebook. Twitter, you can get away creating on your phone. But then you need to make sure that you whip out your phone and say, okay, is this working? And then also ask your friend to check out on his Android phone if it looks good as well. Yeah?
I have a question. Will you be covering how to make a lot of your things more accessible?
Websites and stuff? Not websites, but I'll talk about advertising links later. Yeah. Okay, so that's a good feel for anything else, by the way. If I can't see you, just shout out, that's fine. So that's kind of the feeling a lot about Facebook. How do we make the most out of this reach that we're trying to get hold of loads of people? They like our page, but they don't even get to see our post. So welcome to something called EDGERANK. Now, EDGERANK is a terminology that marketers made up. Apparently, that's not what Facebook calls it, but they won't tell us what they call it, so we call it EDGERANK. I don't know why. EDGERANK is kind of like Google's big algorithm. So you know how Google has all of the money for the company, or at least for the searches, are based around this amazing piece of software that decides which website's going to come to the top when you type in a word. It's the same thing with Facebook. Facebook has this really smart algorithm that decides which post you're going to see when you log on to Facebook. Now, the thing about Facebook is that if you were to log on a normal day and you saw everything that your friends posted, every single post, and everything that the page posted that you liked, you would see on average 1,500 posts a day, right? Because we're all so egotistical that we always want to post about ourselves. And the problem with that is that's obviously way too many for a human being to deal with, like 1,500. You're going to get mogged down by all of your aunt's new baby pictures and then your lonely friend's cat pictures, and you're not actually going to see that your best friend got engaged, right? So they need to decide who's going to see what. And the way they do that is by using something called EDGERANK. Now, they've told us, because what they decide is they only want to show you about 20%, so 300. They're only going to show you the 300 most important posts, and that's how they need to decide how they get from the 1,500 to the 300. And you want to stay in, right? So you're one of those 1,500, and you're just trying to keep alive to get into someone's 300. So they've told us kind of the top 3 factors, and then there's a couple more that I kind of guess as I work along, but those are the ones that they've actually kind of said, yes, we do this. So let's talk about each of them. The first one is affinity, and this is the part where I use like a buzzword. In marketing, there's lots of buzzwords, and I hate them, but I'm allowed one buzzword a session. I've allowed myself this. So today, my buzzword's going to be engagement, which is right for the slide. So if you speak to marketing people, they always tell you, oh, it's all about engagement, which drives me crazy, but it is true, right? The more people interact with your page, the more that's a sign to Facebook that they care about what you're saying, the more likely it is that you will see the stuff that they're posting. Now, in terms of engagement, the way that Facebook ranks it is first it's a first it's a click. So actually clicking on a post counts. Sorry if I'm making noise. Clicking on a post counts as an engagement. Then it's a like or a comment. They're more or less the same. And then the one that counts the most is a share. Now, it's also individualized. So if you're a person that's always clicking, sharing, liking, bless you, that will count less than if someone never engages and one day decides to share, because then they know that's a super share, right? So it's all individualized as well. So that's how they check it. So they'll see what you're engaged. And this is kind of what it looks like. You've all been through this. This is Batman's page as an example. Robin likes Batman's page, and every time Batman posts on the page, you'll find that Robin interacts with it. He likes, he comments, he shares. He also likes photos. They track what type of content you like. So it's very highly likely that every time Batman's page posts, it will appear on Robin's newsfeed, right? You know what this is like. You see your best friend stuff. And the opposite, of course, is Bane. Bane is just spying on Batman. He's just liking the page so that he can check out what's going on. But he often tells Facebook, I don't want to see this anymore, because he's very jealous, and he'll never give him a like, a comment, or a share, right? So it means that it's a very low probability that when Batman posts, Bane would actually see that. So you know this, right? But you know this, but do you really think about it when you're creating content? Because sorry, am I making a noise when I move? Is that annoying? Is that okay? It means that every time you post as a page, it will show it to the super fans first, to the people who really care about your stuff. And they have the ability to make or break you. So if they engage with it, it's going to go to the the Luke super fans and the casual fans, and then the guys who hardly care about you, right? So for you to get to the casual, really maybe like you, possibly will like you fans, you need to go through the super fans. You can't create average content for the lukewarm fan, because they're never going to see it. Because the super fan going to be like, oh great, your album cover, I've only seen that 6 times this week, thanks for that. Right? It's not going to go anywhere. You have to create content for the super fan. They're the guys who are going to push it out. If you create it for the back end, they're never going to see it. So that's really, really important. Figure out who's always liking, commenting, sharing. Take those guys out for lunch. People laugh here. I'm not joking. Take your super fans out for lunch. Ask them, what do they like? What do they get excited about? Create that content. I promise you will double what you're doing. I don't know what you're doing, but you'll double it, right? The next one is edge weight. So edge weight is about the type of content. Now this one's very interesting because Facebook used to tell us that they did care, and then now the PR guy's telling me they don't, but I kind of think they do. So anyway, it's a bit of a discussion here. Edge weight is about the type of content. So now, which type of content do you think does well? So type, I mean a link, a photo, a video, or a status update, a text-only update. What do you guys know about social media? What does well on Facebook? Pictures. Videos. Anything else? How many people say pictures? Cool. How many people say videos? Okay, links. Wow, no one. And status updates. Well, we had 2 or 3 hands. Now, welcome to the beauty of a misconception. Look at photos. What? Now, that is not, now, wait, do not freak out. This is the exact, wait, pictures, wait, let's just calm down. So this is the problem about statistics, because I show this and everyone's like, I'm never doing a photo again. No, right, this is, you gotta, remember, this is statistics. You gotta just chill out before you photograph the picture and then you tweet it and say, never photos on Facebook. That's not correct, right? Just calm down here. This is where people go really wrong. This is a study that was taken by social bakers in the first few months of this year, and they studied 4,000 pages and something like 500,000 posts. So it is a huge study. Now, the reason why photos are so low doesn't necessarily mean that photos are dead. It just means that we're using them really badly. Okay? Because up until kind of the end of last year, we knew photos were the golden type of post. Everyone was like, you put a photo, every social media guy is like, you need to take more photos. Like, photos are the way to your fans' heart, right? All that stuff. Now, that's great, but we thought it just means that we can put any photo and then we're going to get a lot of reach. So we are not using photos correctly. We're just saying, it's a photo, it will do well, right? As I mentioned earlier, if you put the same album cover up 4 times when you release your album, that is a photo, but it's a bloody boring photo. Stop giving me your album cover. I know what it looks like, right? So just doing a photo doesn't necessarily mean it will do well. A photo that is personal, that is showing backstage, that is like getting the fan closer to the artist, of course that will do well. Right? But just saying a photo will do well is not true anymore, especially since Facebook now has a new favorite friend, which is video. Right? So when video came about, photo got kicked out, and now video is the new hot kid on the block. Right? Now, please, again, this is where people look at statistics and start changing it. You got to think about it. The other thing that I think why photos are not doing so well is because if you think of a photo, there's nothing to click. A link is clickable. Facebook counts a click as an engagement. Therefore, as people are actually clicking on a link, you're giving them something to do, of course they can like, comment, and share. But a link has an extra action you can do. You can actually click on it, and that is some type of engagement. Therefore, it might be doing slightly better. So I would say status, links, and photos, they are the same, depending on how well you use them. A good link will do well, a good photo will do well. Don't worry about the difference between the 3. But the video is where it's hot. Question?
I've read that if you post a link to another website,
yes,
Facebook will not show that to your fans because they want to keep the followers on Facebook. Is that true?
No, it's not. It's true in the sense that if people click on it and they come right back, they'll call that clickbaiting. So they can tell when you give out links that are not, well, first of all, they can tell when you give out links that don't work on mobile. They won't show those, because they know most of the people are on mobile. So if you have an unfriendly mobile link, they probably won't show that. And if people are clicking and coming right back to Facebook, they realize you're annoying them. Now, there is a discussion about Facebook trying to host some of the website's content, but that's something else. We'll talk about that towards the end, but good question. Now, the thing I really want, yes?
I read that they changed the algorithm a couple of years ago to make sure that if you upload a video to Facebook, that gets more spread than if you do a link.
Yeah, well, that's what we're about to talk about, yeah. So, it's really important here, which is related to the question here, is that a video is not a YouTube link, right? It's not a Vimeo link, it's not a whatever it might be. Video, in this case, is what they call a native video, When you take the MP4 file, or whatever the file is, the video file, and upload it directly onto Facebook's server, that's native. Now, we used to be really lucky because they used to like YouTube links, so you could do a YouTube link and that was some sort of special link that did very well and it was playable and it looked really nice and it was nice and big. But now Facebook and YouTube are having a bit of a fight, so that's not happening anymore. YouTube links are actually doing very, very badly when they used to do very well. Now, let's talk about what happened here. So Facebook has been talking to marketers, telling them to use their native video services for, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 years. And we've been like, thanks, but no thanks. We have YouTube, why do we care about you? Your video platform sucks, it's not searchable, there's no view counts, we don't really care. So we didn't listen, right? They told us you'll get great reach. We were like, yeah, can't be bothered. We've got YouTube and they're monetized. But then what happened was last year, kind of mid-last year, there was Nick nomination, which was horrible, and then there was the Ice Bucket Challenge. And when that happened, all of a sudden, ordinary users needed to upload video to share with their friends for some nomination thing, right? All the celebrities got involved. It was this big thing. And we kind of realized, oh, those videos, they kind of look good. They autoplay and they stay in my newsfeed forever. Maybe I should try this thing out. And that was kind of the golden moment of Facebook video because users got used to videos. The thing about social media is that it's really more about the platform rules than it is about what marketers want. Up until that point, people on Facebook didn't care about Facebook video. Once Ice Bucket Challenge came, we were kind of used to seeing Facebook video, so we became more friendly to them. And so when that happened, we kind of jumped on board and said, oh, hold on a second, maybe we should try this stuff out. So I did, I tried it out. That's my result. Most people who've been to my seminars and who've tried this, they always come back to me. If I get any feedback, they come running to me afterwards and said, I tried native video, it blew my mind, right? This is what happens, right? It does blow your mind because the first few times you do it, you start getting crazy things like that. So this is crocodiles. They have 40,000 likes on Facebook. The first video I put up, I got 60,000 people reaching it without paying. I got more than my total percent. I got 150% reach. I've never even heard of that. Yes, it was a guy in a bath who was naked. It's a pretty good video. But the point here is that you're going to get a lot more reach if you do native video. And that's what happened. So we started doing it and we started realizing that it was doing really well. And Facebook changed very quickly. First of all, they made public the view count public, so you can see how many views. That's how many people reached the video, but the views is a 3-second view, right, without sound. So when you watch the video for 3 seconds, that counts as a view. But then they also did a whole bunch of other stuff. They made analytics available, and they also added a call to action. So at the end of the video, once you've uploaded it, you can actually add a call to action so that when the video stops playing, you can push them out. And this is really important for music because that's what you should be doing. You should be doing this for everything. Obviously, the first one is for music videos. So you have a music video, you upload 15 to 20-second snippet of it on Facebook, and then you put watch more at the end with the URL pushing it out to YouTube. That means that I know you're going to say you're splitting your views. Yes, you kind of are, but you're not. Because that trailer is going to reach so much more people than if you were sharing the link. So even though not 100% of people who see it will click, it will probably be about 10, 20, 25, 30, depending on how good your preview is. Maybe 50 if you're having a good day. You will reach more people, right? So that's what you want to be doing with videos. And be careful if you're part of a major label. There are a lot of strict regulations about what you are allowed to upload on Facebook and what you're not. Most labels that I work with, they say you're allowed 15, 20 seconds, but you can't upload the whole video because it's not monetized, right? Obviously, YouTube is monetized. Be careful if you're part of that. Now, you don't actually want to upload the whole video because this is not a place where people are going to watch long-form video. This is where you should be uploading kind of short snippets. Then, this does not end here. You have an album coming out. That's great. So what are you going to do? You're going to make an album teaser because that's what you should have been doing before this, and that's what you should still be doing. A very short video that says, album out now, blah, blah, blah. These are the dates with some of this hot new song playing in the background. Same thing when you've got a new, you're going on tour. That's great. You're going on tour. Let's do a montage. Very cheap. You could be writing down, we're going on tour, dates, blah, blah, Sweden, Stockholm, 15 April, blah, blah. You videotape it, and then you speed it up using hyperlapse or Instagram or whatever you might want to do to make cheap, good quality, short video. Everything you announce should be in the video format, please. It's so important. It will do a lot better. Well, all of this is the reach. Well, all of this is from a page perspective. You should never be using your personal page per se, even if you're an artist. I would always use it, my page perspective, but you can share some of the stuff on the personal. Similar rules are true for personal pages, but there are some differences, small ones, but similar rules are true. And it worked, as you can see by the graph. The number of YouTube video links being shared on Facebook has gone down, that's the red line, and the number of native videos have gone right up through the roof. So we now have more native videos being shared than YouTube links. The one person who did this really well is Beyonce. She's been doing this since before Ice Bucket Challenge, and we interviewed her digital marketing person, and they said, we've never seen better results. So that is something, if Beyonce's doing it, I think you should try. Now, what about links? So we talked about links a little bit. Now, links are not as bad as we used to think they are, but there's a couple of rules that have changed. Because it used to be photos were amazing and links were terrible, we used to say to people, share a link, delete the preview, and then add a picture, because that's the best way of getting reach. Now, that is the worst thing to possibly do these days, so don't ever do that. If you have a link, do not delete the preview, do not upload a picture. If you have a link, you just have a link. You don't have a link and a picture, right? If you have a link, you should let the preview load, and then, believe it or not, most people don't believe me when I say this, but go home and try it out. You can actually edit everything. You can change the picture, you can change the title, and you can change the description. You can click on those and change them. If I have some spare time, I'll show you live at the end of the thing, but I always run out of time, so I'm not going to do it now. But you can actually edit it so that it looks really good. And most of the time, you'll see that this picture, if you upload one that's big enough, you can get it to expand. So it could either be a small, tiny post, or it can be this really nice-looking big one like that one, just by getting the right size. And the sizes are as follows. All of your pictures should be as big as possible. The bigger the picture, the better it is, and it should always be landscape, right? Whenever you're shooting video, it has to be landscape or square. I don't mind square. If you're going through Instagram, that's fine, but it has to be this way. You cannot have this way, right? This is not working. So everything needs to be that way, and it has to be minimum 504 length in width for it to look like that. Other way, for it to look like that. If it's not 504, it's going to be this tiny little link that looks really ugly, so don't do it. So it's always going to be as big as possible. It can't be too big, they'll shrink it. But, and it's the same for video, 504 lengthways, right? So try to make sure that you've got them all horizontally. That makes a big difference. So whenever your artist is shooting video, just tell him to flip his iPhone. Now the last one is time decay. Time decay is pretty easy to understand. As you know, more or less timeline goes down in time. If anything gets extraordinary engagement, it will always find a way to pop up in someone's newsfeed. Even if they haven't been on Facebook for 3 days, if it got above average, it will pop up. Now, if you get normal to below average engagement, you're going to get something like that, right? You got about 3 hours. After 3 hours, you're out of someone's newsfeed. So you need to post within the right 3 hours. How do you know what the right 3 hours are? Well, Facebook tells you. If you go into the page insights and you go onto when your fans are online, you can see exactly when they are online. Now, most people say to me, Claire, I don't post at 5 a.m. in the morning. But your 5 a.m. might not be my 5 a.m., right? So depending on where your big fan base is, your 5 a.m. might be different. So have a look if you've got big fan bases in the US or in Asia. You need to know what time you should be posting and which days of the week. But those are normally more or less equal. There's another thing that's important about this. Sunday here is actually slightly smaller than the other ones. But again, don't let statistics... Don't just read a stat and say, yeah, that must be correct. Just because there's slightly less people on Sunday doesn't mean that that is less important. Actually, I think Sunday afternoons are really good because people might not be online as much, but they have more free time, right? If you're going to ask someone to enter a competition or do some stuff, I always find posting on a Sunday evening's quite good because you're kind of laying around, you don't have much to do. You're more likely to do some of the stuff. Monday morning, I'm like catching up with emails. I probably am not going to enter a competition on Monday morning, right? Just think about when would be the right time and what demographic you have. Then this is quite interesting, and it's probably relevant for a place like Sweden. You can actually target quite a lot. This is free targeting, by the way. So let's say you've got 10,000 likes on your page, and you've got most of your fans in Sweden, and then you go for the first time to Brazil. And you're going to tour in Brazil, and you rock up there and you say, "Hey Brazil, see you tonight." Who's going to see that post? The Swedes. Obviously, they're your super fans. They're the guys who are clicking on everything. Does anybody in Brazil know you're going? Probably not. How useful is that? Not very. So you can actually target your timeline for free. If you go into the back end, into your settings, and turn on targeting and privacy, you will get this little bullseye. That little bullseye allows you to target per country, per language, and per a whole bunch of other stuff which may or may not be interesting to you. Which means every time you go to Brazil, that should be set to Brazil. Target Brazil only, and then you say it in Brazilian or Spanish or Portuguese if you want. The point here is that you should be trying to hit up less people who are interested, not more people who are kind of lukewarm interested. That's how social media works. Smaller amount of super interested people, not big amount of kind of interested people. So people tell me, but why would I limit the amount of people who see this? Maybe the people in Sweden are just excited for me. No, right? You're in Brazil, you care about Brazil because if lots of people in Brazil see it, they might share it with their friends who don't even know who you are and they'll go with them to the gig, right? Limit, limit, limit. Do not think you are that good that everyone in the world should care about you because they don't. They really don't though. So there's another one that's come out that's not demographic based, it's interest based. So if you're a label and you find that you struggle because you might have a big pop act and then a big R&B act and maybe a big classical act, and then every time you're posting on Facebook you're kind of annoying one of those three fan bases, you can actually target by interest. So you could say, I only want people who are interested in classical music to see this, or people who are interested in hip hop, which is super useful for labels or promoters or festivals that have different scenes. So you can actually target it so that it will only hit the news feed of the people. Now, let's just clarify this. This is targeting people who like your page and who will see it in their news feed, right? If they go to your page, they'll still see it, but it's deciding whose news feed you want to get into. Remember the 1,500 getting into the 300? We're deciding who of those people's 300 are we trying to get into. And you can also do a post-end date. So if you've got a competition ending at the end of the evening, you can say, you know, apply till the end of the day, and then you can say after 1 p.m. I don't want anyone to see it because the competition is over. Now, that's about targeting in the newsfeed, but what if you've got two release dates? You've got a Swedish, you've got a date when the album comes out in Sweden, then maybe you're going to the US and that will come out in a month later. And you don't want to do Taylor Swift, where she gave out a link so that it worked in the US but not in the UK, and then half of the UK fans wanted to kill themselves, right? So you want to make sure that you're only giving links to the right people here. So even if they go to your page, you don't upset them. So this actually targets not only the newsfeed but the page entirely. So you can do 2 posts, one with the US, one with the UK, one with Sweden, one with the US, whatever it might be, and those will only be visible to the people who either speak a certain language or who are in a certain country based on their IP. Now that's really quite important. You never ever want to give someone a link that doesn't work. Imagine this, I'm a fan, I want to buy your ticket or buy your album, which seems kind of weird in Sweden, why would you do that? But still, let's pretend, and then I click on the link and it doesn't work. Can you imagine how annoying that is? I'm like I want to give you money and you're making it difficult for me to do that. You should never do that. And so many people do that all the time. They're like, oh, we're dying in music, we have no money. Yeah, because you give me links that don't work. Just stop doing that, right? So many times it happens. So this is a really good way of doing that. It's also quite good if you're going to Brazil again. Why not? And you want to say something cool in Portuguese, you might want to do that so that you only target the people who actually speak Portuguese, right? So I like to do that if I go to a local country and I think people would appreciate it because maybe their English is not very good. I'll do one local post in a different language, but at the same time, I don't want to have a Polish post on my American band. It kind of looks weird, right? So you want to limit it so that only if you actually speak the language, you see the post. Now, when you're doing joint tours with other people, or if you're getting a big press on some good sites like Pitchfork, whatever it might be, you always want to tag them in your status updates. That means you put a little @ and then you type their name in. You can tag pages, you cannot tag people, remember that. So that's a little confusion there. Pages can tag pages, people can tag themselves in your photos, but you cannot tag people. Right? You cannot tag people, only pages. So if I'm going on tour, this is the example from Facebook, just to show you what can be done here. Bleachers Report is a basketball magazine, and James Harden, Dwight Howard, those are their pages. They tag 2 famous basketball players as pages in this. And what happens here is people who don't even like Bleachers Report, but who like Dwight Howard, will see it in their newsfeed. Right? So if you're going on tour with Licky Lee, and you're tagging her in your status update, people who don't like your page but who like her page might see it in their newsfeed. So it's worth tagging things that are relevant. Again, if you start tagging Chanel, Adidas, whatever you want on every single status, that ain't gonna do nothing, right? It has to be related, it has to be relevant. So let's quickly talk about a couple of things you can do to help engagement. So when you're doing those famous tours, it's quite good to get people to tag themselves in your photos. Again, they need to tag themselves. You actually need to switch that on in your settings. A lot of people say, tag yourself in the photo, and then they haven't turned that on, so you can't, right? Which is great. This happens all the time, people. You laugh, it does happen. And then that's really good because it allows people, that pictures to travel really, really far. The next thing is hashtags. Facebook is the biggest platform by far, but it is so terrible at search. It's absolutely horrendous, right? Facebook is not made around being able to find content. It's only made around connections. It's about friends and pages you like, which means that it's absolutely impossible for you to find content on Facebook. You can find content on Twitter, on Google+, for crying out loud, on Instagram, whatever you might like, but you cannot search Facebook. If you search Facebook, the only thing you'll find is a page or a place, or a friend. So if you want to find content, if you want to have a content competition, if you want to be able to say, submit some stuff to us, then you need to give your fans a hashtag, and you need to remind them to make the post public. Because they can post on your page, but that goes in that tiny little corner that no one sees, and no one really cares about that, right? So you want to tell them, make a public post and use a hashtag. Because if you ask people to share with us the pictures from the gig last night, that's great. You're never going to find them or see those pictures. So you got to give them a hashtag, right? That's the only way you can make sure you actually group content together, find it, and then post a thank you for whoever did the best one. So that's a way you can do it. You can actually find content on Facebook. But now there are some new features that make that more easy. Trending was rolled out I think it's rolled out in most, I only knew it was US, UK. If it's in Sweden, it must be rolling out quicker through Europe now. So the way this is working is kind of like Twitter. It's aggregating all the top topics. It is the top topics. Wow, that sounds like I'm making a mistake, but it's top topics. So it aggregates all of the biggest one on the right-hand side, and if you click on that, you'll be able to see who's posting about it. If your artist has anything to say about one of those topics, it is really, really good for reach. So make sure that they are posting about hot topics. That sounds better. When they're happening, if it's relevant. The next one I want to show you is graph search. Now, graph search is very exciting, and this is where Facebook is moving into. Now, how many of you have graph search or have heard of graph search? Cool, we've got a couple of people. Great. Now, graph search is something that's been in the pipelines for a long time. I think it's been more than a year, maybe 2, maybe 3, I don't know. So it's something that only some people have. If you want to try to get it, there's this very nifty thing that I worked out by accident. So they roll out all their new features to the US before they roll out to the UK or even to Europe. So you just switch your language to English US, and then you get a lot of the new features first. So that's how you get graph search. At least it worked for me. When you start searching now, instead of showing you places and pages and people, you can actually start searching for posts, people, photos, and pages. And this is quite exciting because actually what you'll find is it becomes a lot more relevant when you search. Look at here. My friends that like Ed Sheeran, it starts to show me post about it and then people. But I can also do my friends who live in London and like Katy Perry. And then you start to get lists. Now, this is where Facebook, by the way, these are real people, and I get really mad for being on the screen right now. But these are real people. The point here is that this is going to be how Facebook gets into the search advertising space, right? Google's biggest and first bit of advertising money is from search. It's a very powerful thing. They're going to get into the friend search. So it's going to be social search, right? And when you do this, there's going to be an ad for a concert of someone who just sounds like Katy Perry is playing in London next week, obviously. And how powerful will that be, right? When you say, my friends who like Indian food who live in London, the restaurant around the corner, right? We're going to start getting into advertising around social search, which is very exciting. I have no idea when they're rolling it out. I've asked Facebook loads of times, they won't say. So it's in beta at the moment, and like 1 out of 10 times that works and 1 out of 10 times that doesn't work. But I don't really know because it hasn't been clear, but you can add some factors together. Sometimes the factors work and sometimes they don't. It's a bit of a mystery. It's a bit of a hit and miss at the moment. Yeah, well, this is working, as I said, sometimes, but let's see where it goes. Now, this was a question about clickbaiting, and it's the same thing about like baiting. Be careful about doing any type of competition post on Facebook where it forces people to do something like, comment, share. Those are not cool anymore. So I know they used to be cool. They're not cool. Don't do them. Facebook will just hide the post. The next thing that happened was November last year, Facebook came out and said, if you do any posts that say buy now or download now, your post will do really well. And then will do really well, will do really badly. And the whole music industry is like, oh, I give up. And I was like, come on, guys, this has been like that forever, right? So if you read that press release and you got really scared, it was always like that. The post always did badly. Buy my album, it always does the worst. You have to put money behind it. So that's nothing new. I wouldn't stress about it. We'll talk about how to deal with it in the next section. Now, the last bit is Facebook audio recognition. This one's just a quick, fun one, just so you know it is coming. Facebook has built in an internal Shazam, which means that every time you type in a status update, it will start listening and looking for songs or TV series, and then it will automatically pre-populate the status update for you, which you can delete, so you decide to approve it or not, and it will show you what you're listening to and push out a 30-second preview. So that's launched in the US. It's struggling a little bit there because people think they're spying on them and listening to their conversation, but it is an interesting one if it comes over to Europe, and we'll see what we can do with that. I'm going to move on to Twitter because I've got 10 minutes to do Twitter. This is going to be fun. Okay. What's the biggest difference between Facebook and Twitter? Let's hear it. Sorry? Yeah, so short, definitely the 140 characters. Anything else? Kind of. That's more Facebook, but in some way it's Twitter. Anything else? Very good. Anything else? Okay, cool. So you've all kind of gotten onto some of the good bits. Obviously, the biggest, most obvious one is 140 characters versus unlimited on Facebook. But there's a different thing between the friends and the followers, which is very important, which you kind of said over here as well. The thing about Facebook is that you've got two types of accounts. You have your personal account, and then you have your pages, right? Your personal account, all your friends, your pages, all your fans. And although with your friends, it's like this mutual, you have to both see each other. The page is like, you like the page and then they kind of top down, give you some info. There's not much interaction, let's be honest here. You're so worried about your beautiful Facebook post of the day that needs to go as far as possible that you don't really think about trying to communicate much more with other people. So it's quite egocentric, big news on Facebook. By the way, you should only be posting once a day. I forgot to say that. On Twitter, you can post as many times as you like, and it's not so egocentric because there's only one type of account, which means that there isn't like this celebrity account and then there's your account. It means that EasyJet, me, Katy Perry, and I don't know, Swedish Export Music have the same type of account, right? We all have the same account with the same ability to do the same thing. There's no distinction between your personal account and your celebrity account, which means that the way I talk to a celebrity, a company, and my mom would be the same. My mom's not on Twitter, but let's just pretend, right? It would be the same, which means that you equal out the playing field. It really means that fans get to chat to their favorite superstar if they're so lucky, the same way that they get to chat to their friends. And that means that there's a lot more interaction going on. And it also means that because there's no limited amount of times you can tweet, people help each other on Twitter to like pull up kind of new celebrities. So you'll find that Katy Perry tweeted about this Norwegian girl, what's her name? It's not Aurora, is it? Yeah, and that like kind of blew up her Twitter account overnight because obviously she said we found this brand new voice. She tweeted it and she got like 2,000 followers overnight, right? So you'll find that people are much more, they're dying for interaction. They're really trying to get attention from big artists and big accounts there because you can break overnight. It also means that people are trying to be the right place at the right time and funny, because if you do that, you'll do very well as well. So there's a lot more interaction going on, and that's why people say Twitter is much more of a communication, because equal playing field and equal kind of rules, and I'll talk about that in a second. So you see everything on Twitter, right? There was a comment about tagging people. Let's see where the clarification is. What do you see? So let's say that my name is Jessica Hish for the next 10 minutes. If you haven't been paying attention, my name's Claire, but anyway. So I tweet, I'm a compulsive oversharer. Who sees this? Who on Twitter sees this? My followers, right? Correct. Here's my Twitter family for the next 10 minutes. This is me, my brother, my mom. I told you she's kind of on Twitter. So us three, we follow each other. Then my cat follows me, and my dog follows my brother. Remember this for a minute. Right? My brother, my mom, cat follows me, dog follows my brother. So I write at my brother, hey bro, que pasa? Who sees this? Now, half of you are going to be like, this is the easiest lesson. Why is Claire spending 10 minutes on this? You'd be surprised how many people don't know this. So, who sees this? My brother, I'm talking about the timeline now. Anybody else? His dog, okay. Dog doesn't follow me though. So this is where the confusion, there's a lot of confusion here. And some people will be like, duh. But most people will be like, what? So this is, let's just talk about this. So first of all, you only see the tweets of people you follow, right? You may not see all of them, but you have to follow the person that's tweeting for you to see it. Unless it's a retweet, which we'll talk about later. So the dog can't see this because he doesn't follow me. The dog follows my brother. Now, my brother is tagged in this, but the dog doesn't see it because he doesn't follow me, and I'm the one tweeting, right? So this does get confusing. So people have to follow me to see it, so that means my mom and brother can see it. But they also have to follow my brother to see it because he's at the start of the tweet. When you put the at the start of the tweet, it limits who sees it because it counts as a conversation. Therefore, Twitter goes, I will only show it to people who are both following me and my brother. So only really my mom sees it. My mom and my brother will see it as well, but my cat won't see it because they only follow me. I know for half of you, again, I'm sorry this is boring you, but you'd be surprised. Twitter doesn't tell people this. I find it fascinating. So when your artist is working really hard and then says, at Pitchfork just reviewed my album, 10 out of 10, no one ain't seeing that, guys. Because you put Pitchfork at the front. They have to follow Pitchfork to see it. You just cut out half of your followers, right? Probably at 20%. Now, it depends. Yeah. So if you're speaking at someone, I'm not saying that you shouldn't do this. This is correct when you're having a conversation, because as much as you think your tweets are golden, not every Joe Schmo want to hear your long conversation with your friend, right? So this is correct when you're having a conversation, but it's not correct when you're having a statement and you're trying to get people to see it. Now, my brother replies, not much, and me, what's good? Who sees that? So now my brother is tweeting, so you have to follow my brother to see it. So it will be my mom and myself and his dog. It doesn't matter that the dog doesn't follow me because I'm in the middle of the tweet. If the ad is not at the front, it doesn't matter. the dog will also see it because anybody who follows my brother will see it. So anyone who follows him will see it as long as it's not at the front. Now, if you want to get that but start the tweet, what you can do is do what my mom did, which is dot and my brother only ate pizza from age 5 to 55. That's a cheat, right? You'll find a lot of people, you'll see dots at the front of tweets and you don't know why. That's to try and get the same thing as that. So everyone who follows my mom will see it. It doesn't matter that my brother's at the start because she put a dot. Now, that is the fancy trick that digital marketing people teach you, but I don't like it. Why? Because Twitter, there's no filtering apart from this @ bit. So you've got millions of tweets going down really quickly. You choose which ones you're going to read, and the ones that start with someone's name that isn't yours, you're not going to read because you're egocentric like the rest of us, right? When things don't look super appealing on Twitter, it's just going to fly by, and you ain't going to notice it. So personally, I know you can do the cheat. I don't like it. It's up to you. Next one. Who sees this? Aha, I have you all now. Who do you need to follow to see this? Obviously me, because I'm tweeting. Do you have to follow my mom, my brother, or both? How many say both? How many people say my brother? How many people say my mother? And how many people say either or? All of the above. So you have to follow me and my mom, right? The second person doesn't matter, because the second person counts as being in the middle of the tweet. So it has to be the first person. So if you're tweeting lots of people and you're having a conversation, put the most important one, the one with the most followers in the front, because you'll get more people to see it. Okay, that is the basics. Let's get into some stuff in a whole bunch of 5 minutes. Good. So it is interesting, this whole dilemma of, so that's all the filtering there is, right? You will see all the tweets from the people you follow, apart from the fact if they put an @ the front. By the way, if someone retweets somebody else's tweet, obviously you'll see them again. You'll see their tweet as well if you follow the person who's retweeting. Yes, question. Talking about the news feed. They'll see everything. Yeah, they'll see it. Well, they'll see it on mobile, not on desktop. On desktop, it's in a separate tab. But yes, it's mainly mobile, so they will see it. Yeah, but people don't go on your profile. I mean, they don't really. I mean, yeah, they will look. Yeah, agreed. Good point. So the problem with this, with Twitter, is because there's no filtering, there's loads and loads of tweets going out, and I am going to run over time, so we're going to deal with that in a minute. But so there's loads of tweets going out, and therefore it's really overwhelming. So Twitter's struggling because if they go to start filtering like Facebook does, then they're just going to turn into a 140-character version of Facebook, which is not sexy at all. And if they don't filter, they're not getting new consumers. So they're trying to find a way of finding a middle ground, one of which is this new thing called while you're away. So there's two things. One is while you're away. So if you log on and you haven't logged in for a while, they'll show you the top tweets. And the other thing is if you're new to Twitter, they will autofill your timeline for you for things they think you might be interested if you just join Twitter. So they're trying to find new ways of doing this, but they're not quite there yet. Let's talk about content that works on Twitter. Now this, I'm really sorry, this is going to be really late. I want to tell you really cliche things like be funny, and you're like, Claire, thanks, now it's so much easier. Now I know I have to be funny on social media. The point here is, how do you be funny on Twitter, right? It's so easy to say, but it's not so easy to do. So here's an example from a brand called Argos. It's like kind of like, for simplicity, let's call it like IKEA in England. It's not quite, but similar. So not a very sexy brand, less sexy than IKEA. And there's a lot of help stuff happening so if you complain, you often complain on Twitter because brands reply and then you get free stuff. So this ordinary guy wrote to Argos with the ad at the front, so only people who followed him and Argos would see it. When you're getting the PS4 things in most site, ain't winning no more, plus that Asian guy who works there got bad attitude, #waistband. Now, Argos replied, save Batman, we getting some more PS4 things within the next week, you get me? So that's about the attitude, probably having a bad day, yo. Now, this is a perfect example of how sad England is, because this actually went viral, and then there was loads of tweets, and they made it to the newspaper, and it's all very sad. But the point here is that if someone like Argos, like a brand selling beds and furniture, can speak like this on Twitter, You as music companies, you just gotta chill out, right? You literally need to stand there, like wave your arms and legs before you get on Twitter and then tweet. Because there's nothing like someone like, well, I think that the blah, 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 la, la on Twitter, right? Like, no one cares, guys. If the fans are talking to you here, you can't go on your high horse. You just gotta chill. Chill on Twitter. You don't need to say I think, because you're tweeting, so we know it's you and we know you're thinking, so it's fine, right? Like, it's chill. So let's just relax when we're on Twitter. That's the rule number one, right? Then if you're not funny, you just steal stuff from all over the internet. So Twitter is kind of like, it's fine if you're stealing. This went around like 20 times. Every time somebody else was tweeting it, it was going viral. I mean, you just steal. If you're not funny, steal stuff. That works quite well. Then the next one is you got to stay up all night during big live events. This is actually worth it. Tell your artist to take loads of Red Bull and watch like big US sporting events or the Brits or the Grammys or anything like that, because it's worth tweeting during that stuff. This happened during Super Bowl, thank you. And the famous Katy Perry left Shark, who couldn't dance. And obviously the night afterwards, this came out, like loads and loads of memes came out of that. So when things go wrong on live TV, you'll find Facebook and Twitter, or especially Twitter, will explode over this. And if you can be the first one to do it at the right time, it works really well. So Oreo was one of the first ones to do it, like 3 years back, and since then all the brands have kind of caught on. So live tweet during funny events, it always works a treat. Then this is the same one. So when the second baby was announced, this came out really quickly by Nissan saying, even if there's triplets, there's still room. So this came out a lot really quickly. But when the first baby was announced, every brand did 2 big Starbucks cups and a little cup with a crown on it. You know, everyone did it. So it's super easy. 2 vinyls and a CD. Like, the stuff, the Easter's coming out, do your thing with the Easter. Like, I know it's lame, but it works, so just do it. Like, find a way to make it stick and play around with the topical stuff, because people just eat it up. I'm going to skip a couple of these for just time's sake. I'm definitely going to talk about this one because I love this one. So this is a really good example of what do you do if you're not very good on Twitter. I will admit, I find Twitter demanding, honestly. And it is so easy to say be funny, and obviously it's quite hard to do it on the go all the time. But what I think we need to think about social media, and Twitter specifically, is how can we make the most out of something that is happening already, right? So whenever you have something big happening in real life for your artist, think about how can I milk that on social media? How can I take this event or this opportunity or this thing I won or whatever it might be and pull it out and make the most of it on social media? And that's exactly what they did. So ENRIQUE and PITBULL did this tour. They were going on tour together. And instead of going on Twitter and saying, hey guys, the tour is out, buy the tickets on my non-mobile friendly website, they decided to make a competition. So they said, everybody who follows both accounts and tweets using the hashtag ENRIQUE PITBULL Tour, 10 of you guys will get to actually announce the tour. We'll give you the dates. So first of all, you get all of them to follow you and tweet your hashtag, which is pretty smart. It goes trending worldwide. And then think about it from a fan perspective. You're tweeting away. All of a sudden, you get ENRIQUE or PITBULL who follow you. You fall over the couch. Then you actually get a direct message from ENRIQUE or PITBULL saying, here's the day we've chosen you, please announce the date. You're on the floor at this point. Then you actually pull yourself together and tweet, and then both PITBULL and ENRIQUE retweet you, and then you're pretty much done. Like, that's your life. Thank you very much. You know, you become a homeless guy, like that's it, you're done, right? Because you're going out there and you're walking around school or on the streets and you're stopping people in the street and you're like, I was the PITBULL ENRIQUE guy, right? That's marketing, that's how it should be. That kid's gonna tell every Joe Schmo he can get his ear on, right? He will steal people, take them out of restaurants and tell them. That's how you do marketing. You could have just said, here's the tour, buy the tickets. No. You make the most of it, and this is such smart marketing. So think about how you can do these type of campaigns, because that's the stuff that really makes sense. Oh, hashtags. Okay, I'm going to show you a tiny bit of this video just to give you a break, but then I'm really running out of time, so it's only going to be 2 minutes. This is just to try to explain hashtags on Twitter.
Hey, Justin, what's up?
Not much, Jimmy. Hashtag chillin'. What's up with you?
Just been busy working. Hashtag rise and grind. Hashtag is it Friday yet?
Hey, check it out. I brought you some cookies. Hashtag homemade, hashtag oatmeal raisin, hashtag show me the cookie.
Sweet. Hashtag don't mind if I don't. Pretty good. Hashtag getting my cookie on. Hashtag I'm the real cookie monster. Hashtag no.
Not bad? Okay, I'm gonna stop it at that. You get the idea, it's a really long one. The thing about Twitter is that they invented hashtags, and even though they were stolen by a whole bunch of different platforms, so Facebook and Google and Instagram and a whole lot, it was only really Twitter that kept this hashtag culture that they have. So there's 3 different ways you can use hashtags on Twitter. One is kind of the same as you would across the other one. So you have an album coming out or you're going on tour, so you give everyone a hashtag and you get them to use it, which is smart because you can go trending and it spreads the word a lot better. So you do this if you're a big account. You make sure you always give your fans a hashtag for whatever campaign you're doing. The second one is you use hashtags that are already existing. So if there's a big thing like the Brits or the Grammys or the Super Bowl or the Nick nominations or the Ice Bucket Challenge, you will use ones that are already existing because lots of people are searching for them, so there's a high probability of you being found. So always use trending hashtags if you're tweeting about a certain event. And then the third one is for humor, right? When people are just using it and it makes no sense. Like, I went to the Mona Lisa, hashtag is she smiling? That somehow is funnier than saying, I went to the Louvre and saw the Mona Lisa. Like, I don't know why, but that's just how it is. So you take a sentence and you make it a hashtag. No, it's not trending. No, it's not going to trend. But you just do it because that's the way Twitter works. So definitely worth using hashtags because they do really well. Now, you got to watch out, because the thing about hashtags that I like to mention is they tend to go wrong if you're not careful. Twitter is about being funny at the right time at the right place. If there's anything controversial, then people are going to jump on it. So doing a Twitter Q&A for Madonna right after she fell at the Brits is not a good idea, because everyone's going to say, oh, how much did that hurt, Madonna? And then everyone's going to be like, no, did you fall, blah, blah, blah. So obviously there's always going to be someone that hates your artist, and there's someone's going to say, oh, Madonna, you suck, but no one's going to care, and it's not going to go trending, and it's not going to kick up a fuss, right? But if you're doing a Twitter Q&A right after something really big happened, then it's going to go bad. So Robin Thicke did one just after some controversial stuff, and it did pretty much what happened with the NYPD, which is tweet pictures of NYPD helping you, and it went went left ways, right? It went really bad. Same thing with Robin Thicke. People just abused him, so don't do that. So here's some good examples of how it can work with a Twitter Q&A. So you give all your fans a specific hashtag, and then they use it to ask you. Now, you don't ask you questions and you reply. It doesn't have to be super positive, right? You don't have to be like the friendliest person. Here's Nick Cave. Are you hating this, Nick Cave? I'm hating this beyond measure, and I haven't even started yet. And what would you recommend for young musicians hoping to be as great as you, Nick Cave? Lower your expectations. So this did really well. Lots of news and everything. So you can actually use Q&As even if you're not happy-dappy, but don't be controversial at the time. That will not do well. Another really good one from One Direction was they did the Q&A before they went on tour, so you had to tweet using the hashtag and then also which city you're in, and they would answer your questions on tour in front of the whole stage. Very smart. Peeps are freaking out for that stuff, right? So again, super fan moments, very good. Definitely do that. Then you might want to be searching what people are saying about you on Twitter. The king of this is, of course, James Blunt. I don't know how many of you follow him on Twitter. He's one of the funniest guys I know out there. Right before his album came out last year, he started searching for people who were saying mean things about him and then replying, which was very funny. Here's one of my favorites. So this poor person tweeted, people who think you're beautiful, your parents too, James Blunt, and he replied, only I was drunk at the time. And then this is my favorite, after he's been doing this for a while, someone tweeted, James Blunt must have a sad life, just searching his name on Twitter and wait to reply to stuff. And James Blunt replied, just search your name, nothing. So let's finish off with some content technicalities. You can tweet a lot. You've got about 18 minutes and then your tweet is dead. So unlike Facebook where you've got 3 hours, you've got 18 minutes. So go, tweet away if you can. There's no such thing as too many tweets unless they're annoying or boring. use pictures because they take up a lot of space. Same thing with videos. So YouTube videos are still fine. They expand. You can use them. Pictures do really well just because they take up more space and there's loads of tweets going down very quickly. This is another thing. You can actually tag people in your photos now, and you can add up to 4 photos. I used to say this is pointless because people don't care about tagging on Twitter. They only care about it on Facebook. But if you do tag people on your Twitter picture, it does go very far. So do try it out. I think it's a bit nah, but some people tell me they got good results. Last 2 slides, because I'm 10 minutes over. The first thing is you can start doing direct messages. So before you could DM one person at a time if they follow you. But now if they follow you, you can actually add them to a group message, which is pretty good for those super fan moments where you're trying to tell 10 of your top fans the new exclusive and then they announce it for you. And the last one is native video. So just like Facebook went and did native video, Twitter came out with native video a few months later. So you can actually, this only works on mobile. You can video record stuff or use something you've already video recorded in the past and actually send it out on Twitter as a native video that also autoplays. I don't think it has video counts though. The point here is that they don't have EDGERANK, so they don't have reach to play around with. So you're not going to get a lot more views because you used a native video, but it does look very nice and very engaging in the actual timeline, so it will do well. Yeah, this one should also be landscape. Yes, correct. Because actually Twitter does that cutting for you automatically, so photos in general should also be landscape. Yes. So that's a good question, and maybe we'll finish up with this because this is my last slide. So let me talk you through what I think is going to be like the best way to do and maybe an album announcement, let's say. So you have an album coming out, you do a 15, 20-second album preview. Let's say it's a tour, it might be easier. You're going on tour, you do a 15, 20-second album preview on something called Hyperlapse. Do you guys know Hyperlapse? It's an app by Instagram, so you can take you writing it down, then you speed it up, because when you speed things up, it just looks better. Then you push it out to Instagram, where you post the 15, 20-second video there. Then you download or you save on Instagram, you can put a filter on it so it looks nice. Once you save it on Instagram, it should save it on your phone. You take the video format, the file, you've sent it to your email where you download it on your desktop. On your desktop, you upload it into native video on Facebook, where you make the announcement on Facebook, and then on your mobile, you upload the native video on Twitter and share it on Twitter. That's how I would do it. Not automatically. Okay. Well, hopefully that was a good roundup. We're out of time, so I'm going to take a 10-minute break, and then we're going to come back with the second session. If you have questions, come ask me here. Thanks.